Hello, everybody. Anyways, sorry about that. Anyways, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is Thursday, April 24th, 2025. Hopefully everybody's had a good week. We're in the latter part of the week here. 1 week from today, of course, we start the month of July there. Give me a sec here. I need to go off camera here for a moment here. I'll be right back. Be right back. Right, sorry about that. I'm back now. So, anyways, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Let me just take care of one more. Let's do one more. Go through here, see if we can get some more. I did it already. All right. Alrighty then. I'm gonna do this one more time here. I'm gonna go off camera here one more time here. Hopefully, take care. Then when I come back, we'll probably go ahead and get started. All right. So anyway, so now I guess we're already past the 5 minute mark. So I'll talk a little bit about what's on tap for tonight. Then we will then we'll get right into the stuff. So Right, we have a couple. We have a couple of stories we're going to talk about tonight. Obviously, the passing of Steve Mongo McMichael. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, 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 we're going to be going over the Indie Comic Showcase from Bleeding Fool, so we'll look at that as well. Let's see, and then of course we'll do the wrestling wrap up. Look back to last night's Dynamite. Look ahead to tonight's TNA and Ring of Honor shows, and then we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. So, with that all being said, why don't we first off let me talk a little bit about. So, I guess it was yesterday. Steve, former NFL, former NFL Pro Bowler and NFL Hall of Famer, as well as former WCW great Steve Mongo McMichael, passed away at the age of 67. He had been diagnosed with ALS, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, better known to most folks as Lou Gehrig's disease, back in 2021. Had apparently finally succumbed to the disease. I guess it was sometime today, because he was admitted into hospice yesterday, and then it was announced this morning that he did indeed pass on. Steve Mongo McMichael, of course, was part of the 1986 Super Bowl champion Chicago Bears. Was an all-pro defensive lineman for them, and then once his career in football had come to an end, he made the transition to wrestling. Initially, starting out as commentator, actually made his first appearance with the WWF back in 1994 during the whole LT angle, in which LT was Lawrence Taylor was making his debut with the WWE versus Bam Bam Bigelow, and then would eventually, of course, would eventually move over to WCW, where he remained a commentator, and then transitioned to actual wrestler, even including having a run as United States champion, and was actually one of Goldberg's first main rivalries, as it were. So what we're going to do now that I've mentioned that, we're going to do a moment of silence for Steve Mongo McMichael, and then we'll move on to the next story. Steve Mongo McMichael passed away today at the age of 67. So. All right, so with that being said now, of course, said and done. Now we're going to move on to our other story of the evening, or the article from Bleeding Fool. Which is, of course, the Indie Comic Showcase article. And this is his 300th episode here. Indie Comic Showcase number 300, Gigline, Kerguelen, and Maniac. Article by Chris Braley, published yesterday. Well, let's get into this. Welcome back to another installment of Indie Comic Showcase, the weekly blog where we signal boost a few truly independent comics that are currently crowdfunding their projects, crowdsourcing their funding in some way, or just completely self publishing on their own. Every little bit of support for these creators matters, from a single dollar pledge to the $25 bundle, and of course, the higher tiers are usually fun too. Even if you can't back a campaign or buy a book, you can share or tweet about these projects to your friends and followers. On Indie Comic Showcase, we interview the creators, show off some art, and tell you how you can check out the product for yourself. Below, we have some outstanding crowdfunding campaigns this week for you to learn about, enjoy, and hopefully support by backing one or more of them. Thank you for checking these out and for being the best part of any comic showcase. Let's jump in. So, of course, the first one is Gig Line, a comic book autobiography by Bruce Olav Solheim, PhD. Wow, we got a doctor here doing a comic book. Wow, this sounds interesting. Let me go grab of course grab the link here. So, oh boy, here we go. Anyways, sheesh. There's gonna be a of course going to be I really don't like it when they do this. These Amazon is a bit more of a pain because when you copy it, it doesn't all fit into the. All right, so this project's being done on Amazon. If you guys want to go check that out, I'll put the link in a moment here. What was the Gig Line, a comic book autobiography? Oh wait, oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes when you're trying to, you have to like when you're wanting to copy a link. And the thing with Amazon is they have these long links where they don't get everything completed. It just let's check something here. Yeah, so as long as we had the first part of that link, should be fine. So there's a link right there. And I'm just deleting the excess here. So this first one should suffice in terms of if you guys want to go check that out. First part of it should suffice. So hopefully. I just hope that it still works. Yeah, it still works. Okay, good. Alrighty then. Alright, so let's get into this. So, Gigline, a comic book autobiography by Bruce Olaf Scheuheim, PhD. Alright, so let's see what this is all about here. Chris Braley. For those unfamiliar, can you give us the elevator pitch for your comic? What is Gigline, a comic book autobiography, all about? Or about? Bruce Olaf Solheim. Gigline, a comic book autobiography, is my life. The book offers readers 37 two-page comic stories in chronological order by many different artists from around the world. It is a story of a man's struggle to seek alignment and balance in a complex world. Taxi Time, story by art by Tatiana Harima. All right. Obviously, some of it's in black and white here. And then Bruce Olaf Solheim continued. The term, quote unquote, gig line comes from its military usage, lining up your trouser fly, your belt buckle, and your shirt buttons um, establishes a straight gig line. If you do something wrong in the military, in parentheses, especially during an inspection, you get gigged, in quotes there. If you don't have the proper gig line in your uniform, it doesn't look neat, and you appear to be out of alignment. The military taught me discipline, to take pride in what I do, and to focus on the mission. I was also contemplating, quote unquote, plumb line as a title. My dad was a carpenter, and keeping everything plumb and using a plumb line were things I learned early on. Nobody wants a crooked house, right? We need to be balanced and in alignment. Um, and that has been the struggle of my life, as depicted in these stories. All right, so very interesting premise here. Um, obviously, the autobiographical sketch of just seeing the world through his eyes, I guess, with the help of these artists. Hmm. And of course, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, Chris Braley, what influenced this comic, and what led you to self-publish it? Bruce, I was inspired by Harvey Pickar and American Splendor. I am a disabled U.S. Army veteran and wanted to tell my story. I also enjoy having full creative control. Chris Braley. Chris, who is the intended audience for Gigline? What kind of readers will connect with it? Bruce, all ages. I combine humor, history, drama, social commentary, and sci-fi into my autobiographical stories. That does sound very interesting. Very perspective based, I guess. Sounds like an interesting read. All right, Chris, can you describe your creative style and process? How did you develop your approach to this project? Bruce, these autobiographical stories are all two pagers, which force me to be concise in my storytelling and to focus intently on the imagery necessary to convey a meaningful lesson that I've learned in life. I'm a history teacher and have been for more than 34 years. It's my main gig. Comics are my side gig, um, but I owe everything to the sequential arts because that is how I learned to read. I am a historian and have been making comics since I was a kid. Hmm. Some interesting perspective in terms of the art here. It's black and white. Chris, who is on the creative team that helped bring Gigline to life? Bruce, myself, of course. I write and create for at least 2 hours each day. George Verongos is my executive editor. Julie Kazanowska um, was the art editor, and many artists from around the world. I selected each artist for specific stories because their style perfectly captures the ambiance of the narrative. I appreciate how each artist captures me in their own unique way, reflecting my various moods, attitudes, and phases of life. After all, in real life, each person perceives us differently, right? Hmm. Wow, again, another very interesting angle here he's playing. Chris, what have you learned from the process of self publishing and crowdfunding this book? Bruce, I control the content. Big publishers do not do much in terms of promotion anyway, so I don't mind doing my own. Yeah, cut out the middleman, right? Especially if you feel the middleman is incompetent. uh, what are your plans after this book? Do you have more stories to share? Bruce, working on Dr. Jekyll Alien Hunter number 2 and Snark number 3. 883 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow, that is hot. Hot, hot, hot. Chris, thanks for taking the time to share with us, and I thank you for your service as well. Bruce, all of this is done in the spirit of cooperation and peace. Hope you agree and enjoy the results. Thank you. All right, so there we go with that one. Now we will be looking at the Maniac from John Borelli. And again, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let me just go first up. Let me go to one thing here. See if I can entice a few more people to try to. Oh, you really get annoyed when they. Oh crud. Uh, Oops. Let's see. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that, didn't I? Yeah, I sent that, but I didn't realize I shouldn't have sent that. Oh well, I completely forgot that I was on. I'm gonna try to see if we can. But anyways, all right. So I forgot that I had changed to another thing there. So I got the wrong link. All right. Well, anyways, let me go grab. Let me go grab this link, of course. Maniac by John Borelli. Let me go grab this link. Hopefully, it will be a little bit simpler. Yeah, this one's a Fun My Comic, so this one's not going to look as quite as ridiculous, but or quite as ridiculously long. All right, so here's the next one. There's a Fun My Comic article. So if you guys want to go check that, or Fun My Comic project. So if you guys want to go check that out, there's a link to it. Um, The Maniac by John Borelli. I'll give it up for a moment, give you guys a chance to take a look at it. All right, so let's see now. Let's. Chris Braley, give us your elevator pitch. What is The Maniac about? John Borelli. Maniac number one features the maniac who is hell bent on crashing a party, so assassins will come after him. It's a 25-page story in The Maniac versus Harry Liggins. The maniac goes after a guy, and probably totally not inspired by a real person, for getting his comic book campaign struck down. It's 12 pages. Both stories are in black and white. Okay, so I can understand. I can understand why he would feel not inspired by a real person. Meaning, in other words, he's covering his backside, make sure nobody thinks he's actually trying. He's trying to use his comic to make a threat. That's funny. That is kind of funny. I'm sure though that, granted, not that anybody would actually follow through on said impulses, but I'm sure many people in that situation have had that impulse to want to just find, somebody getting your comic canceled or whatever. You want to just go and wring their neck. Sure, you guys have all had that impulse, but you know better than to actually act on said impulse. So, anyways, we now so Chris, where did oh yeah, where did the idea for The Maniac come from, and what made you decide to self-publish? John, I have had the idea to have a humorous superhero comic called The Maniac for years. Originally, he looked more like a biker and had an M on his chest. He was the only hero going after Super Pimp. because he didn't care that it would look racist. Okay. Oh boy. Thus far, it sounds like this guy is a pro-Trump guy, pro-Trump, anti-woke. But let's. I guess we will just continue. Let's see what happens here as we read on in the article here. Well, until there was a lot of quote, Batman is evil. He should be like Bernie Sanders Batman, just beats up poor people, unquote, discourse online, that I realized the maniac should lean into that. Selfish, thrill seeking, and cruel, but still the hero. I'm self publishing because I think it would just get rejected being tasteless. Not to mention with the current woke culture, they probably wouldn't get the humor. I would take it in that. Anyways, as we continue on here. So, Chris, who is this comic best suited for? Who do you see as your audience? John, if you like mean humor or great art, this is for you. Chris, can you describe your creative style and process? How did you develop your approach to making this comic? John, I dream up cool scenes, think of jokes, and then string them together. I only storyboard some of the panels. Corrigan does the heavy lifting in the art department. Corrigan. Wonder if he's related to Billy Corgan. Well, to Faustland, huh? Who else helped bring this project to life? Corgan is the main artist. Ray Ray is happy, has done the cover for number one and some promo images. Chris, what does your production workflow look like? John, a few pages get done a month. From script to drawn pages, issue 2 is already written. Chris, what have you learned from the process of self-publishing and crowdfunding so far? John, writing is the easiest part. Laugh out loud. Yeah, it seems like a lot of people who self-publish find it that creating a story is the easy part. The promotional work is usually the hard part because you have to actually deal with people. Anyways, Chris, any plans beyond this book? Are there more stories to come? John, the first arc is planned for 6 issues, and I have some shorter Maniac stories planned too. And Chris, good luck, John. All right, so there we go with that one. Now we'll get to the last, and I'm guessing it's pronounced Kerguelen or Kerguelen. One of the two ways there. Um, let's go. Kerguelen by Edgar Anderson. Let's go grab the link. And there's another Fun My Comic project. There's apparently issue 2 of this book. And here's the link to this book if you guys want to go check that out. Right, so there we go with that one. Kerguelen by Edgar Anderson. Let's get into this. Chris Braley, start us off with your elevator pitch. What's Kerguelen all about? Edgar Anderson. Kerguelen, issue number 1, is 30 pages long and is black and white. A wealthy merchant named Mr. Clay hires a group of mercenaries to track down a bandit gang that has been raiding his caravans. Some of the bandits are captured and are in possession of strange artifacts that they found near some ruins. The prisoners say that the ruins are haunted and should be avoided, but Mr. Clay forces them to lead him and his mercenaries to the ruin so that he can plunder it. That's probably not going to be a good thing happening. Chris, what inspired the concept for Kerguelen, and why did you choose to self-publish? Edgar, I like geography and I read about an oceanic plateau near Antarctica called the Kerguelen Plateau. Kerguelen Plateau used to be a microcontinent, but now most of it is underwater, except for a few small islands. Um, for my comic, I managed I imagined what the Kerguelen Plateau would be like if it was not underwater anymore. The southern part is the coldest. Um, so, um, so its geography is similar to the McMurdo dry valleys in Antarctica. The middle part is tundra, similar to the Kerguelen Islands, and the northern part is a forest similar to Tierra del Fuego. The comic has a post-apocalyptic setting inspired by Fallout and Mad Max, where people live in small isolated settlements, struggling to survive in the harsh environment. I decided to self-publish to retain full creative control over my work. That is generally the case. Who is the target audience for Kerguelen? Chris asks. Edgar? Kerguelen is a post-apocalyptic comic aimed at anyone who enjoys action and adventure. Chris, can you describe your creative style and process? How did you develop this project? Edgar, this was my first time publishing a comic. I got ideas for the setting and story from daydreaming, and I would occasionally jot down notes. These notes grew into a detailed design document with a fleshed out world, characters, and story. I drew a map of the Kerguelen Plateau, eventually began writing scripts for the first issue. Here are some of the artwork there. Chris, who's on your creative team and how did they contribute? Edgar, my team includes an illustrator and a creative editor, both hired through Upwork. Illustrator for Kerguelen issue 1 is Manuel Benigno, who lives in Italy and recently graduated from art school. My creative editor, William D. Hastings, helped with dialogue and plotting the scripts for issue 1 and several unpublished issues. And it does seem well. Okay, so the first story was color; the other two were black and white. So never mind that. Chris, walk us through your production workflow. How far along are you with the series? Edgar, for issue 1, I wrote each page of script, reviewed it with my editor, then sent it to the illustrator for a sketch. After approving the sketch, he completed the page. Issue 1 is complete and available on my website, kerguelencomic.com. The script for issue 2 is finished, but it hasn't been illustrated yet. Hopefully, readers will pre-order issue 2 here to fund its production. Chris, what lessons have you learned from self-publishing and crowdfunding? Edgar, I learned how to effectively describe scenes to my illustrator to align with my vision. Working with my editor and beta readers also improved my storytelling and writing skills. Chris, what's next for Kerguelen? Are there more stories planned? Edgar, I envision Kerguelen as a long-running series. I've written scripts for 9 issues and outlined a story spanning at least 50. Wow, this guy's planning on going on a long run there, isn't he? He's in it for the long haul, as they put it. Chris, are there any special features or peaks for readers? Edgar, yes. The crowdfunding page for issue 2 offers 3 perks: 2 bonus stories exploring key characters' backstories and behind-the-scenes content about the comic creation. You can read a free sample of the first 9 pages of issue 1 at kerguelencomic.com. Chris, cool. Good luck, Edgar. All right, so that's it for this installment. If you're a creator ramping up your own campaign or have a comic available for purchase online and you want to be featured in our weekly column, click here so we can hopefully help you get more eyes on your crowdfunding comic project. Till next time, support indie comics. And that's it. That's a wrap, folks, for that. I'm going to need to step away from the computer for a moment, but but I will be right back. I get back, we'll do the wrestling wrap up and get into this day in each history, but we've got to step away for a moment. I'll be right back. All right, so now I'm back. So again here, Gigline, a comic book autobiography. Let's see, by Dr. Solheim, Bruce Olaf Solheim, The Maniac. Has a link to The Maniac. Maniac by John Borelli. Then we get to Kerguelen. Let me just Kerguelen from Edgar Anderson here in a moment. So if any of that caught your attention, go to those sites and check out the books. With that now we're going to go ahead and get into the wrestling wrap up. We're going to, of course, talk some wrestling news. Look back to last night's Dynamite. Look ahead to tonight's TNA and Ring of Honor shows. Let's see. All right, so actually we're going to go straight into some of the AEW stuff here. So on last night's Dynamite, as they continue to march towards Double or Nothing next month. Opening match, Mark Briscoe defeat Ricochet in a one-on-one match. As I guess it's a big win for him, considering that the conglomeration has been having some issues of late, kind of going down the card a bit. And then in a tag team match, the Young Bucks, in their first official match back since their return from hiatus, defeated Speedball Mike Bailey and the Jet Kevin Knight in a tag team match. In another tag team match, never openweight champion Konosuke Takeshita and Josh Alexander, the Don Callis family, defeated Brody King and Will Ospreay. And Will Ospreay, of course, I think he's still set to take on Takeshita as Takeshita and Ospreay also in the tournament in the Owen Hart tournament. They will be Will Ospreay actually already beat him. They're now just waiting for the winner of the Kyle Fletcher Hangman Adam Page match. See who will go on to the finals men's finals at Double or Nothing, to see who will then advance to take on whoever the AEW World Champion is at All In June, I believe, or July. And the main events in the second of the two semifinals for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, the women's side of it, Jamie Hayter defeated Chris Statlander. Now she's set to take on Mercedes Moné in the finals at Double or Nothing, with the women's winner, of course, getting a shot at whoever the women's world champion is. That will be right now. That would be, of course, Timeless Tony Storm. So we'll have to wait and see. Of course, Jamie Hayter looking to I guess even the score, as it were, with Storm, as Tony Storm was the one who took Hayter out, defeated Hayter. She beat Hayter for the women's world title a while back. Has since lost it and regained it since that time, but But Hayter is obviously going to look to even the score with her. So now let's look ahead to tonight's Ring of Honor and TNA shows. As on tonight's Ring of Honor show. On tonight's Ring of Honor show, which is on ringofhonorwrestling.com. The premier athletes of Arya Davari and Tony Nese will be taking on a mystery team. The Spanish announce team of Angelico and Trementico will also be taking on a mystery team. In an 8-man tag match, AR Fox, Top Flight of the Martin Brothers, and Mark Briscoe team up together to take on Shane Taylor promotions of Shane Taylor, Pure Champion Lee Moriarty, and the inventory of Carly Bravo and Sean Dean. Another tag team match, the Righteous will be taking on a mystery duo. Dutch and Vincent will be taking on Red Velvet. Is set to answer a mystery challenge for the Women's World Television Title Proving Ground match. A Proving Ground match is when, so apparently most of these matches, if not all of them, were set up as open challenges, I guess. That's kind of interesting. Proving Ground match is when you wrestle, is something that AEW and Ring of Honor set up to where you fight the champion, and if you can defeat the champion in a non-title singles match or non-title match, then you'll get a shot at the championship. It's one of the ways you can also earn a shot at the championship is by beating them in a non-title match. The Kingdom make their in-ring return. Mike Bennett and Matt Taven make their in-ring return. And also, the main event will see Lance Archer of the Don Callis family taking on Crowbar. Yes, Crowbar, the same Crowbar from WCW fame. Obviously about 25 to 30 years older, but than he was back then. But he, like a lot of the wrestlers from the 90s are still wrestling. We've talked before here about Pierre PCO, aka Pierre of the Quebecers, who's still active as well. So, among others. And now, of course, we will now talk about what's going to happen on Impact tonight. Tonight's Impact, which is the go-home Impact before this Sunday's Rebellion, and the final matches before the Rebellion pay-per-view this Sunday. Coming from the St. Joseph Civic Arena in St. Joseph, Missouri, with Matthew Rainwalt and Tom Hannafin on commentary. In a knockouts match, you have Rosemary taking on NXT's JC Jane from Fatal Attraction, with her Fatal Attraction teammates Fallon Henley and Jasmine Nix in our corner. Ace Austin and Trey Miguel will be taking on the Systems, JDC, and TNA X Division champion Moose. In preparation for her match against Masha Slamovich for this Sunday at Rebellion for the TNA Knockouts World Champion, Tessa Blanchard takes on Missa Kate, a star in the Midwest area of the United States. Ethan Page and Frank Kazarian, basically Joe Hendry's two opponents in the triple threat match will be taking on Joe Hendry and Elijah in a tag team match. And then in the main event, in a mixed 8-man tag match, you have Mustafa Ali leading his Order 4 faction, along with Tasha Steelz and the great hands of Jason Hotch and John Skyler, to take on TNA Knockouts champion Masha Slamovich, TNA World Tag Team Champions, the Hardy Boys, Jeff and Matt Hardy, and Mike Santana. So we'll probably go over the Ring of Honor and and TNA results tomorrow. But with that, now let's start to wrap things up by moving ahead to this day in each history. So today is, of course, Thursday, April 24th, 2025. So let's take a look back at this date in each history. History! So, first off, we're going to head back to 1995, 30 years ago today. On this date, 30 years ago today, in 1995, the 10th issue of King Hell's Roaring Rick's Rare Bit Fiends went on sale on this date back in 1995. So 30 years ago today, the 10th issue of Roaring Rick's Rare Bit Fiends went on sale from King Hell. This is the only book that apparently King Hell Comics published. It sold for $2.95, was 32 pages. So on this date, 30 years ago today, the 10th issue of Roaring Rick's Rare Bit Fiends went on sale on newsstands on this date 30 years ago. Now, moving on to the next piece in each history as we move ahead to the year 2000. As on this date in the year 2000, on the go home Raw before that year's Backlash, WWE held its Monday Night Raw event from the Raleigh Entertainment and Sports Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina. The night saw, in the main event, Chris Benoit and Triple H, with Stephanie McMahon Helmsley and Vince McMahon in their corner, defeat Chris Jericho and The Rock with Shane McMahon as special guest referee. Also on the night, Christian Edge defeated the Dudley Boys in a tag team match. Al Snow and the Godfather accompanied by the Ho, lost to D'Lo Brown and Steve Blackman. A 2-on-1 handicap match, the Big Show defeated Bull Buchanan and Big Boss Man via DQ. Matt Hardy defeated Crash Holly. Let's see. So, in 57 seconds, let's see. So, the night started off with Rikishi defeating Kurt Angle by disqualification. Chris Benoit retained the Intercontinental Championship over Road Dogg. The Holly Cousins, Crash and Hardcore Holly, defeated the Hardy Boys. And then Matt Hardy subsequently beat Crash Holly for the Hardcore title in 57 seconds. So that all happened 25 years ago on this date as WWE held its Monday Night Raw. This was the go-home Raw before Backlash that following Sunday. Excuse me one more moment, guys. I gotta... All right. So, anyways, now we're back here. So let's see. Let's move on to the next piece of niche history, as it were. We move ahead to the year 2010, which was 15 years ago today. On this date in the year 2010, Sunrise's Gintama, the movie, premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 2010. Tama the movie, literally Gintama, a new rebelling Benzakura arc, is a 2010 Japanese animated film produced by Sunrise. The film's plot is a retelling of the Benzakura story arc from Gintama, in which Kotaro Katsura is attacked by a member of the army, Kiheitai, and freelancer trio Odd Jobs Gin start searching for him. So, 15 years ago today, Gintama the movie premiered in Japanese theater from Sunrise. And finally, as we move ahead now to 2015, which was 10 years ago today, on this date 10 years ago today, as soon as I bring it up, Nickelodeon's Team Umizoomi aired its final episode on this date back in 2015. Basically enjoying about a 5-year run. So on this date, Nickelodeon's Team Umizoomi aired its final episode on this date back in 2015, 10 years ago. Team Umizoomi is an American live-action animated musical preschool children's television series created by Sue Kim, Michael T. Smith, and Jennifer Toomey. And developed by Terry Weiss for Nickelodeon and the Nick Jr. channel. Toomey and Kim additionally serve as executive producers, and Kim also serves as producer with Smith and Marcy Pritchard. The series places an emphasis on mathematical concepts such as counting, sequences, shapes, patterns, measurements, and equalities. Team Umizoomi debuted on January 25th, 2010 with the Kite Festival in the Aquarium Fix-It, and ended on April 24th, 2015 with Umi Rescue Copter. 4 seasons with a total of 77 episodes were made. So, well, that's all we got for you tonight, folks. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Hopefully, you guys got some good information out of that. Of course, we'll be back here with more niche news tomorrow, as well as this Sunday. I'll be joined by Apex from Apex Comics to go over comics that went on sale in May of 1940. This week we'll be looking at comics that went on sale from Fawcett. We'll be looking at, of course, Wiz Comics Volume 1, Issue 6. And the first 3 issues of Nickel Comics. We'll explain a little bit more about Nickel Comics and what Fawcett tried to do with that. We'll be introducing you guys, of course, to Bullet Man, and be reading some Ibis. So with that, I thank everybody for joining me tonight. I hope you all enjoyed the show, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.